Everybody knows that leak code style coding interviews suck, but this is just crossing the line. A couple months ago, this app called Interview Coder was released to the public, and its goal was to kind of get around interviews, coding interviews, and technical interviews that would require you to study using tools like LeetCode in order to pass and do well in the interview itself. The thought is there, but there are some really big problems with this, and I want to get into it. To start, the creator of this app is Roy Lee. He posted about it a couple months ago, and 2 days ago he posted that he just got kicked out of Columbia for making this app to go against LeetCode interviews. So it's a long story, but Roy created an app that helped you cheat by basically making an invisible LLM like chatbot that would answer questions for interviews for you and then make it so that the interviewer couldn't see that on your screen. It's really clever the way that he used movement. The app moves around your screen so that your eyes don't stay in the same place. It's harder for AI detection softwares to tell that you're cheating. Another thing is he's made over $2 million from it in 50 days. And that's just absurd. That means that people are using this, and it opens up a ton of doors to ethical problems and problems with the interview process that we have right now that is not going to be able to last this way. It makes things worse in a job market that's already really strained. So why do we have LeetCode style interviews? The first reason, and this is a pretty big reason, is it's cheap and efficient on time. So companies are able to sort through hundreds of thousands of job applications and kind of cherry pick the ones that they think are the best. This kind of works and kind of doesn't, but with the amount of people going through the system, you end up filtering out good ones, even if they're not all of the best ones, if that makes sense. It's good enough at this point. Another reason is it's really hard to test applicants' problem solving. In all honesty, some of the best I've seen have been companies like Roblox that use games to help kind of make things easier, but also it's a way to gauge directly how you approach problems, and different people approach problems different ways, but obviously there's no perfect way to approach a problem. Another pretty big one, and probably the easiest thing to point to for LeetCode, is data structures and algorithms proficiency. So, in all honesty, to get a job, you should have a good understanding of data structures and algorithms. That's not to say you should have everything memorized. And at this point, I think it's pretty dumb to have things memorized, especially because of how big LLMs are. Coding with AI is the future, let's be honest. And gauging the proficiency of your workforce on how well they know algorithms and data structures that an LLM can answer for them is kind of dumb. There are different ways and different processes that companies could go through that would be more time intensive and probably more expensive, but it would also be more effective in hiring better people. Another thing is it's an industry standard. When I apply to Apple or when I apply to Amazon, I expect, if my resume is good enough, to have to go through one of these interviews. So preemptively, I'm going to practice LeetCode in order to do well in an interview. The problem with that is other companies see this and it snowballs, right? If one company is doing this because other companies are, then that just adds to the pile that makes it so that more companies want to do it because it's a standardized way of doing things. And that brings me to my next point. What we really need is a standardized system for evaluation. And the time for that might have come and gone. Um, LeetCode has worked well enough up to this point, but with the use of AI tools, and let's be honest, it's like hackers in video games. It's always going to be the companies trying to play catch up with the people trying to cheat on these tests and on these interviews. What we really need is a way to gauge somebody's proficiency and really their willingness to learn, because it's kind of impossible to say that you would rather have somebody who sat and memorized all of these algorithms instead of somebody who wants to learn and is eager to learn and is excited about the technologies that your company is using. And while that kind of goes hand in hand at this point, it doesn't anymore because people are using AI to cheat. So somebody that can do perfectly on an interview might be the guy that's sitting on his hands, not practicing LeetCode, and doesn't care about any of that stuff. He's in it for the money. That brings me to my next point, which is the number of people in the computer science industry that are here for the money. And I know this is kind of a well-known thing, but I'm in college right now, and I know a lot of people in my major that are in computer science specifically because of the paycheck. And for me, I went to school when COVID the whole COVID job boom was happening. It kind of made it so that more and more people saw these huge Silicon Valley salaries, and that's why they want to work in computer science. Not because they enjoy coding, they actually dread coding. The number of projects I've had with people who specifically wanted to do write-ups and documentation instead of actually writing the code is absurd. Writing the code is generally the fun part, and that just makes it so that there's more competition in a space, and it makes it so that tools like Interview Coder, where you can cheat your way through it, exist and can make $2 million in 50 days. So what we really need to talk about is what these types of tools do to the average Joe. Let's go with an example. Say there's a pool of 10,000 applicants for my startup. I'd imagine startups are getting 10,000 applicants for a lot of jobs at this point. If it's an okay sized startup, it's going to get a lot of applicants at this point because of the job market, right? Even if all of them are trash, throwaway LinkedIn applications. So we've got 10,000 applications, and we want to pick a pool of, say, I don't know, if it's for interns, we want to pick a pool of 10, maybe 10. Okay. So that's 1 in 1,000, which is not to scale here, but you get the point. 1 to 1,000. And so out of these 10,000, in my experience in the computer science space, probably, it's so sad to say, but probably about a third of these people, here, I'm going to move this out for a second, about a third of these people really, really just love to code and love computer science, love to understand how computers work. And then there's the vast majority who are in it for the money and have the I like computers, so I want to be in CS mentality. These are the two big groups of people. And so maybe a third of people actually love to code. And that makes it difficult when you've got tools like this where they're doing 2 million and say all of these people have studied well and maybe they've studied amazing, but they've studied to the point where they get half of those 10 people. So it's 5 and 5, which is optimistic. Let's be honest. That means half of these people are willing to cheat to get in, but that also means that half of these people skimmed by. And that's not who, as a company, I would want to have working at my company. And this is a problem that companies are going to have to face, because if half of your new hires are going to be trash hires, it's just going to make the market in the industry worse. People are going to want to hire less. People are going to want to lean more on AI than they're already trying to lean on. The company's spending half of its money on people who are going to coast, and half of the people that are at the company, they don't want to be there. Why would I want to be at a company where half of these people cheated to get in? And because of that, they're pretty much just freeloaders. They're wasting everybody's time. And obviously this exists in every setting, and it exists now, but it makes it so that there's more and more people that are able to get in that wouldn't get in otherwise, right? So like at this point, the people that work at companies that don't do anything, those are the ones that they had to work to get in. At least they had to work to get in. But now it's making it so that I can pay to get in. I can pay this. Let's look it up. How much is this per month? Pricing. $60 a month. Okay, that is a lot of money, but $60 and I can go and get interviews and do amazing, right? That's horrible, because I can pay $60 and get a job over somebody who spent hours and hours of their time and they don't get the job. And so it puts people like me in a really, really tough position where you've got two options. You can take this 50-50, which is less than a 50-50, because you're 5 out of 10,000. So 5 out of 10,000 is 0.0005%, or I guess 0.05%. All right. So 5 out of 10,000 is 0.05%. And that is really, really bad odds. And that means that you need to apply to 2,000 jobs to get one job. And this is kind of where we are at this point. We're at a crossroads where companies are going to start to see a decline in the productivity of their workforce. Even with AI tools, they're going to see a decline, because at this point AI tools aren't good enough to go into existing code bases and make changes that nobody's ever made before, creatively solve problems. It's not good enough for that. And we're going to have to face the music. And it really puts these companies in a difficult position, because I don't envy them. And I'm happy that I'm not a recruiter at this point, but I also am not happy about the situation I'm in, because I'm the one fighting for these jobs. I'm the one fighting for this 0.0005. It's a really, really tough position for the computer science, for the software engineering market at this point. Here's what companies could do. If the role was for a front-end engineer and you're working with React, Next, that kind of thing, and you have a really, really, maybe not a really simple problem, but a problem that would take thought and take care and wouldn't even matter if the person used AI on. Say I just wanted an API to be created using Next.js. So here's how we'd start. We'd start with the Next.js API, and on the posting, we would post a list of requirements and have people make a Next.js API. And while this is pretty simple, this is a pretty basic example, it makes it so that it's not really testing them on algorithms, because despite what people might think, the algorithms that you're tested on with these coding interviews, those are basic algorithms. And being able to know those and memorize those is not really a big deal. But here's the thing. If I want a Next.js API and some random person comes up and they don't know Next, that's fine. Because if they then are able to make a Next.js API that follows what I stated in the requirements, then that shows to me that they were willing to learn, and that they were able to use tools like ChatGPT or some other LLM to build something that worked. Because a big thing about this whole system is a lot of these LLMs don't make things that work a lot of the time, and a lot of time is spent now debugging what LLMs have built. And so I post my job listing with requirements for a test, basically, some arbitrary test. And then the applicants come along and they all build this Next API, right? And then we can have them write a report. Maybe not a report. Write up a 200-word essay, right? About the experience that they had working with the API, and whether they had experience with Next before, and what the experience taught them, anything like that. Because what matters, especially right now, is how quickly you're willing to adapt. Things are about to change a lot, and they are changing a lot, and they'll continue to change a lot. And one of the biggest tools that you can have as a programmer at this point is to be adaptable. So we have applicants complete a small project, very small project, and write a 200-word essay, and basically just talk about their experience with it. And we can use AI to gauge it. It seems unhuman, like really disconnected, but these companies are trying to save money. Everybody's trying to save money, especially right now. So basically, what we're going to have to do is find a way around this. And in my opinion, the best way to go around this is to go through it and accept that people are going to use AI, because I'm not going to lie to you, I pay $20 a month for Cursor. It's a necessity at this point because of how much faster it makes things like coding an algorithm that's been coded 10,000 times. Like if I'm programming something and everybody's seen this before, I can press tab on Cursor and it'll do it for me in 2 seconds. Versus me having to sort through documentation and learn APIs and do all these things that I wouldn't have to do otherwise. So that's kind of all I've got. What are your thoughts on this situation? I don't think that this is going to go without some kind of backlash, because if these companies stay on the course that they're on, it's going to make things really difficult for the people with integrity, the people that really like to code. It's going to make it difficult for them to get a job. And despite what these companies want to think, that's not in their best interest. And it's not in the best interest of the world, because designing good software is part of making the world a better place. And the big companies, despite everything, they exist because of good software and software that people want to use. So, what are your thoughts? I'd like to hear it. Thanks for watching. I'm just a college student, so if I made any mistakes here, please let me know. Don't hate me. This is all from my perspective. Uh, so yeah, thanks and have a good one.